Will the secretary please call the roll?
Madam Chair Christie,
Here.
Commissioner Garcia,
Here.
Commissioner Hardy,
Here.
Commissioner Hitterdale,
Here.
Commissioner Marashi,
Here.
Commissioner Nguyen,
Here.
Commissioner Rush,
On the way.
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Ryan. Welcome. Okay. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Hardy will lead us in.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is time of our meeting, the commission meeting, where it's public comments. This is for items that are not on the agenda. All of you here tonight are on the agenda, okay? So we have to have public comments for non-agendized items, okay? Do we have anyone in the audience that wish to make a public comment on non-agendized item? If not, moving right along. Okay, we're going to go to the consent calendar, and this are the items. Number A is minutes from the special meeting of September 14, 2017. Item B, historic property preservation agreement. Number 2017-14, address of 818 North Venture Street. Historical property preservation agreement number 2017-25, property at 903 East Stafford Street. Is there a motion for the consent calendar?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Schaefer, second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nguyen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not here yet. It's Commissioner Rush. Okay. So we'll say D because he's going to be here, so we won't do D. Okay, we'll just come back. Okay. Next item on our calendar is very good. Okay. Next on our item of our agenda is the business calendar. This is time when the commissioners communicate the disclosure. Okay. Do we have any disclosures by the commissioners? Commissioner Marashi.
On Sunday, October 1st, Chair Alberta Christie and myself visited all the homes, and we had the fortunate opportunity to talk to the Ramirez's on Flower and also the Delmas on Riverside.
Okay. All right. Now, this is the time and place for our public hearings for item number 1 for the Historic Resource Commission application number 2017-18, Historic Register Property Categorization number 2017-17, and Historic Property Preservation Agreement number 2017-22, and for the property located at 515 West 19th Street. Staff will now make a presentation. Don't speak at one time.
Madam Chair, I'd like to introduce Ivan Flores, a new planning technician here with the city. Ivan will be assisting us as part of the historic preservation program that we have in an attempt at trying to go through all the pending applications that we have. So please welcome Ivan for his first presentation.
Welcome, Ivan.
Thank you for having me, Chairman. Good evening, Historic Resource Commission. It is a pleasure and honor to be speaking in front of you today. As mentioned, my name is Ivan Flores, and I'm a planning technician for the city. That being said, I'd like to kick off our presentation with the criteria for contributive properties as defined in the Santa Ana Municipal Code. The contributive category is a building that contributes to the overall character and history of a neighborhood or district and is a good example of period architecture. The first three today are requesting to be designated on the Santa Ana Register of Historical Properties and that the city execute a Mills Act agreement so that they may preserve their homes for years to come. The first property is 515 West 19th. This property is located in the Floral Park neighborhood and is being requested to be listed as contributive. This house was constructed in 1923 and by an unknown architect, unknown builder, and will be recognized as the Finch House, named after the first recorded occupant. This house is a good example of the Craftsman architectural style. Some of the character-defining features are the roof with its open eaves with fascia in the gables, and with casement windows as well as singular casement and double-hung windows. It is recommended that the house be designated to the Santa Ana Register of Historical Properties and categorized as contributive because it contributes to the overall character and history of the Floral Park neighborhood and is a good example of period architecture, representing the Craftsman style in Santa Ana.
Thank you so much. Keep the property, the picture of the property. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anybody have questions for Ivan? Not at this time. Thank you so much. Would the applicant like to speak at this time? Home. Mr. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the presentation. You know, actually, the only thing I want to kind of stress is it's nearly 100-year-old property, one of the first properties built in Floral Park and Santa Ana, and that it is that Craftsman bungalow, style that was so popular at that particular time. So that's briefly yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have any written communication, Madam Secretary? No. Okay. The public hearing is now open, and I have one speaker for item number 1, Gil Salmon.
Hi, good afternoon. And I'm here to speak more generally about historic structures such as this and ones that exist in our neighborhoods as we go to place them on the register and execute Mills Act agreements with them. I'm a resident of Henninger Park, and the owner of the landmark Stein House. And one of the things that's been concerning in the neighborhood is that very few people know as they're purchasing these properties that they're purchasing into a historic district or purchasing specifically a home that's on the historic register. And so I'm asking you as commissioners to see what you can do with staff to possibly create a flyer or whatever route you believe would be best to just find a way to make sure that folks know as they're buying these properties that they come with additional requirements and responsibilities. Because I hate to wait until it comes to code enforcement time to see that to see these issues come up. So I'm just putting that request out there and hoping that U.S. commissioners can work with staff to figure that out. And then my second request is that with the state allowing ADUs now by right, it's a little concerning about what style these ADUs will take in relation to our historic structures in Santa Ana. And so I'm wondering if there's possibly some example historically appropriate ADUs that we can send out to folks just as a guide so that people know as they're starting to think about it that it can be done and at least be done in a way that's historically appropriate. So I just, two requests to have information out to those owners and potential owners so that we can make it really celebrate the fact that we have historic structures in our neighborhoods and really celebrate the ownership and restoration of those structures. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak at this time on item number 1? If not, thank you, speakers. We enjoyed your comments. Does any of the commissioners have any comments or questions? First of all, Mr. Verney, Mr. Salmon, his 2. I think we do have a link now that shows historic properties in Santa Ana, right?
Sure. Madam Chair, thank you. I'd like to address Mr. Galad's question this afternoon. So the first portion of the question was how are folks being kind of alerted about the neighborhood that they're in? Staff is looking at additional ways to update our property information tool to ensure that most folks know or are aware that SD19 means French Park, SD40 means Henninger Park, and that for other sensitive neighborhoods such as Floral Park and others, we put in extra highlights in those areas so that folks are aware. And as part of the contract, his second question had to do with, actually the first question, wrapping that up, it is required that the Mills Act agreement is recorded as part of the agreement over at the county. So when purchasers are making a transaction, that would be one opportunity for them to be aware of kind of what they're entering into. The agreements themselves are transferable to the new ownership, and so I'm hoping that will continue to apply for all further owners. So I believe there was...
before you leave that one, do we not have a link now that shows the 651 historical properties that we have?
Yes, thank you. So staff has undergone a comprehensive update of all the recorded properties to date, and that is available on our city's planning webpage, and is sorted through a web. There's an actual map that plots the individual locations as well as a detailed list of properties that we have to date.
Additional units, additional accessory dwelling units.
Right, so the city enacted design and development standards that require all accessory structures, including accessory dwelling units in the city, to comply with architectural guidelines that would require the primary unit and any accessory structures to be consistent in terms of architecture, look, style, theme, and so forth.
And there's a lot size for that, for accessory dwelling units?
Currently, staff is exploring some changes to the existing accessory dwelling unit ordinance, and Ricardo Soto's happens to be the planner that's working on that, but I'd be happy to address any specific questions following the meeting.
Okay. Okay, so you have meet with Vernie over here at the end of the meeting and be able to assist you. Okay? All right? All right. Sure.
Yeah, I think a couple of us have comments directed to your questions. Number one, I think one of the best things you can do is to be proactive with your neighbors. I know, I'm not sure how active your homeowners association is. I know you have a homeowners association, but I would highly urge you to, talk about this. Floral Park does an outstanding job of letting people know what their options are, and we probably all could learn from that and do a better job. But anyway, I would say that'd be the number one place to start. And I know you're in a historic district, but that doesn't mean every single house is on the registry that's in that district. So while it's true if you're on the registry and you have the Mills Act that is recorded with a sale, but if you're buying a house that's not, they have no clue that they're buying into a historic area if the seller and the agents are also clueless. So that's where the power of the neighborhood really can come in. And hopefully people are buying old homes because they love old homes and they want to take care of them, but I know that that is not always true.
Commissioner Qureshi?
I just want to echo what you had to say, Phil. Yes, Floral Park, when we do have a membership committee that goes around and meets with the new homeowners, gives them a nice little basket. And in there, we have a nice flyer that talks about the history of Floral Park and the Mills Act and things like that, to either educate them if they have a property like that, or to encourage them to maybe become a property like that. So that's one thing we do. The other thing, the accessory dwelling unit, last Comlink meeting on Thursday, Candida came and presented there, and she had a new draft of what they're proposing. Because right now, you know, the state has already mandated their set of rules. Unless we come back with something, we're at the mercy of them. So that's why the planning department is working actively, very actively, disseminating that draft and trying to get everybody's input, and that's why they came to the conflict. So I encourage you to get a copy of that and read that, because that does talk about historic properties in there. So, and thank you very much for coming. And you're right, this commission should do a little more proactive talking with neighborhoods and things like that, sort of like Comlink does.
Any other comments from commissioners? Okay. Then I now declare that this public hearing is now closed. Do I have a motion? Commissioner Hickory?
Right. I'm going to move that we adopt a resolution approving historic resources commission application number 2017-18 and approving the historic registry categorization number 2017-17. And I move also that we recommend that the City Council authorize the City Manager and the Clerk of the Council to execute a Mills Act agreement with Marvell J. Rusty, subject to non-substantive changes approved by the City Manager and the City Attorney.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Rushkey? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No? And Commissioner Rush is still not here. Okay, I have to acknowledge that. Okay, well, congratulations, Liz. Okay, moving on. Gotcha. Give me a chance. This is the time and place for public hearing. Item number 2, Historic Resource Commission application number 2017-19, Historic Register Categorization number 2017-18, and Historic Property Preservation Agreement number 2017-23 for the property located at 2544 North French Street. Staff will now make the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The second property is on 2544 North French Street, located in Park Santiago. This is this property recognizes as the E.L.H. Smith House after the first recorded occupants, who were husband and wife. Was built in 1954 by Jasper Farney. It is listed as contributive and was constructed in 1954, and is the ranch architectural style. Character defining features of the E.L.H. Smith House that should be preserved include, but may not be limited to, the material and finishing, the massing and composition, and the architectural detailing exposing the rafters. It is recommended that the house be designated to the Santa Ana Register of Historical Properties and categorized as contributive because it contributes to the overall character and history of the Park Santiago neighborhood and is a good example of period architecture representing the ranch style in Santa Ana. It is recommended that the Historic Resource Commission adopt a resolution to approve HRCA 2017-19 and HRC 2017-18, and recommend City Council to authorize an HPPA 2017-23.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Would the applicant love to come up and talk to their home, about their home? And we record that Commissioner Rush has arrived.
Jeff and Martha Martinez. Thank you, Commissioners. Well, oftentimes people will ask, what drew you to this house? What did you like about it? And I submit to you, Chairman, that I'd like to turn that equation around. I had nothing to do with it. The house spoke to me. The house drew me in. I was simply an innocent bystander. We were looking for homes in the area, of course, and I was completely beckoned when I saw this house. For all of its beauty and charm, the magnificent camphor laurel tree, which stands in the back, the sycamore tree, which has a peculiar but interesting lean aspect to it, and then the roses combined with the other lush setting. It just really made for a warm setting. And so the house spoke to me, spoke to my wife, and of course we were drawn in. Lots of characteristics about the house, lots of interesting elements throughout. And what I enjoyed about this process was doing some historical digging and getting outside of the Google world and just talking to people up and down our neighborhood. We have the good fortune to have neighbors who actually knew the original owners, and they gave us some tidbits and some stories that are really colorful. The original owners were well known in the area. They had a restaurant called the Revere House, owners of the Revere House, and this was known as the Afterglow House. Lots of colorful stories, but the house really lends itself to, the quote-unquote entertainer house. You've got pocket doors on the inside. It's really a house that transforms from something cozy to something really open, where you can have lots of people and entertain lots of people. The other thing about the house, and this is the story that really compelled me, just to think what imagination went into this home. The house, before it was built, just have to imagine this neighborhood full of fruit trees, as was Tustin and parts of Orange at that time. And it really took a lot of imagination because the streets weren't really developed as they are now. And the original owner, Mrs. Smith, was outside. This is a story of sort of like it's got this folklore. She took a broken tree limb, a branch, and she started to etch the form of the house on the ground. And that's not only interesting, but when you are in the home, you could really sense that her spirit is within, it envelops this home. The angles, not everything is 90 degrees in this home, and particularly on the inside, you'll see some interesting, well, let's put it this way, an architecture student, first year, would be stumbling over himself to figure out some of these angles. Very, very interesting, kind of pushing the limits of an ordinary type of composition. But some of the other aspects, I think I had some others, sorry. One of the other things that really spoke to us about this home, just in recent years, we've seen this home in a number of ads, a number of people around the area around our home, when they put their house on the market, you sometimes see our house listed as a point of interest. So I suppose that has a selling aspect unto itself.
And that's part of what resonates with us is that we want people to enjoy our home as well, and I think that people already do. And this is just kind of that next step. We love it so much. So. Yeah.
The one thing about the whole aspect of a historical home, the maintenance, the attention to detail, it may not be for everyone, but I think that our efforts really make it available to everyone, and that's also a reward in and of itself to us. One more, this is something that a good friend of mine shared with me. He said that that this home really typifies the spirit of Santa Ana, the symbolic aspect of community, the warmth and the depth of the homes that were built in this area, and what it says as the preservation going forward to really maintain that and to keep that vibrancy of old Santa Ana.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communications? No. Okay, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone else would like to speak on item number 2? Okay. If not, before the commissioners say anything, what you see there is a speaker thing. Green, yellow, red, okay? And it's 3 minutes, but I have the power to extend it, okay? So you see this, I'll just keep on going on that. But I forgot to explain that system and so forth because we love to hear your stories, because a lot of our records do not have the intimate information that you have, so that we can include this in our write-up, for future generations to see why your home is so important and why it's on the historical register on that. All right? So don't get afraid or excited when you see the green, yellow, or red. Okay? All right. Now, bring it to the commissioners. Do the commissioners have any comments?
I have one comment. Mm-hmm. Besides the beauty of the home when you walk up to it, the thing that struck me was the placement of the chimney. You have this long structure and 45-degree angle to that longitude is the fireplace. What is that? Is that what you're talking about? Strange shaped rooms, and is that a double-sided fireplace? And how does that surface? Wow, amazing.
We knocked, but no one was there. Okay, Commissioner Schaefer.
It's not inappropriate. You could invite us over for cocktails. It's all right.
Commissioner Schaefer.
I think the city attorney's getting nervous, Commissioner Rush.
No.
I have been over to the house, but I had no alcohol when I was there, I don't think. And it is truly beautiful inside, too. I want to compliment the homeowners. The inside has got a lot of knotty pine paneling and things that were popular during that time period in the early 50s. It does have 2 back-to-back fireplaces on angles in the house, and it is very, very unique inside. But the exterior, I think, is so inviting and is really just like in a magazine or something. The landscaping is beautiful, and on this block of French, on the same side of the street at the other end, is a home that's also got beautiful landscaping and is on the historic registry. So I believe this is the 3rd home on that block to go on the registry, and this maybe should have been the first, because it's really, I think, one of the nicest when it comes to curb appeal. I would love to stipulate that it always has to be barn red. I think that's the perfect color for this house, and it just really feels like a country ranch home. A lot of ranch homes are stucco and more modern, but this just has a really warm presence to it, and it's a beautiful home. So I'm very happy that it's going on the registry.
Anyone else? Commissioner Wynn?
I can see the glow, the proud, the love and compassion of the owner. And Mr. Martinez explained, I can see from Mrs. Martinez as well. And I would like to make the dream come true for the Martinez family. I'd like to motion to adopt resolution approved Historic Resource Commission application number 21017-19 and approving Historic Registry Categorization number 2017-18. Recommend that City Council authorize the City Manager and Clerk of the Council to execute a Mill Act agreement with Jeffrey Martinez and Martha Martinez, subject to non-substantive change approved by City Manager and City Attorney.
Okay.
I second.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Wynn, second by Commissioner Schaefer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Motion carried, and the public hearing is now closed. Congratulations. Also, I would like to say that Commissioner Rushy and I, on your phone down the street on the Sunday, we were looking at that. And as we were looking, we had to drive north, right? It's north.
Yep.
And in order to turn around, and the Martinez were at a neighbor's home next door, and they were looking at us like, are they casing the neighborhood? And so as we made the U-turn, which we had to park in front of the house, all of a sudden they all came out going, what's going on here? Enjoy that. So when we explained what we were doing, and we said, why isn't your home on the historic register? And we spoke to you, and we're so glad that you did that. Thank you so much for putting this special gem on the historic register. Okay? But no, we were not kissing your neighborhood. Okay?
Well, you do have that suspicious look.
Yeah, we do. Since I was driving. Okay.
Well, to add to your story, this past time we were looking at another house in the neighborhood, and as we were wrapping up, all of a sudden this car comes racing down the street.
Yes.
And turns right at us. And the guy goes, "Hey, you!" And she about jumped, 5 feet tall, and we said yes. And they said, are you here about that house? And we said yes. And they said, can you tell us a little about that and what the process entails and everything else? So I actually gave them the form that we were looking at. So it's nice when we do visit neighborhoods and they come out and ask us questions, because we're glad to share all the information and encourage you folks to apply.
We risk our lives for you, okay? Commissioner, anything else?
Yeah, before we leave this property, I'd like to comment on kind of local history. As I understood you correctly, the first owners owned the Revere House? No?
The E.L. H. Smith, they owned an insurance company first. There were owners that did own the Revere House. I don't know if it was the Smiths or the following owners. I don't know.
I see. So there were people who lived in the house that owned the
Revere House.
Owned the Revere House.
Yes.
Well, it seems to me that's a notable item of local history. The Revere House has been closed for such a long time now, but when we're talking about dates, I guess we're talking about history. I know it certainly was we mentioned the 1950s. It was open in the 1950s. I can testify to that from personal experience, and it was a very locally famous place, and I think we should note in our write-up if we could find the names of the owners. I certainly didn't know anybody that owned the Revere House, but I was there a number of times.
Thank you, Commissioner Hitterdale. Staff would be happy to continue the research to validate that information and verify it to be correct. And we'd be then inclined to potentially, which I believe you're suggesting, potentially change the name of the house to the Revere House if it were appropriate.
At minimum, to add some information, historic template. This particular owner was in the house for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
So we could continue the research. And then,
Okay, very good. All right. Now, moving on. This is the time and place for public hearing on item number 3 for Historic Resource Commission application 2017-20, Historic Register of Categorization number 2017-19, and Historic Property Preservation Agreement 2017-24 for the property located at 2432 North Riverside Drive. Staff will now make the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The third property is on 2432 North Riverside Drive. It is proposed to be listed as contributive. It is known as the Davis House, named after the first recorded occupants. It was constructed in 1931 by an unknown builder. And all original exterior features of the Davis House are considered to be character defining and should be preserved. These features include, but may not be limited to, materials and finishes, the stucco, the roofs and the doors and the windows, and architectural detailing on the house. It is a good example of English Revival architectural style. It is recommended that the house be designated to the Santa Ana Register of Historical Properties and categorized as contributive because it is a good example of this period architecture and its presentation of the English Revival style. Despite the second-story addition, sorry.
You're doing a great job. You're doing a great job.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Despite the second-story addition and replacement windows, the building appears to retain sufficient integrity to convey its original design. It is recommended that the Historic Resource Commission adopt a resolution to approve HRCA 2017-20 and HRC 2017-19, and recommended that City Council authorize the Historic Property Preservation Agreement 2017-24. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Would the applicant like to come up and discuss the property? Is the applicant here?
Be asked to speak before you.
Could you bring the microphone down just a little? There.
Okay. I really wasn't prepared. I didn't know that I was supposed to speak before you, but one of the things that I wanted to present is that Samuel Davis was one of the original board members and founders of the Orange County Historical Society in 1919, as well as being, I think, the first district attorney of Orange County. So he was very prominent in the history of Santa Ana. Also, one other little thing, some of the documents that I received have my former husband's name on them. he passed away in 2011, and I have since, or after he passed away, taken his name off the deed. So I don't know why the information that I received still has his name listed as one of the owners of the property.
Would you check with our planning department, because they pull up the information from the Orange County Register, Orange County.
We'd be happy to check the information and make any additions or corrections as necessary. Typically, we receive a copy of the grant deed as well as the title report from the applicant. So we'd have to look at that information, and we will be happy to make the changes as requested.
Thank you. Thank you. But yes, I love the house. It's a beautiful house. I was particularly interested in the neighborhood because I grew up in the Midwest, and most of the homes that were in those particular neighborhoods were all period homes and not cookie cutter type homes that are so prominent in Southern California. And one of the first things when I walked into the house was the vaulted barrel ceilings and the woodwork with the moldings and so forth. And when I opened up one of the cupboards in the breakfast nook, it smelled like my grandma's house. And I loved my grandma's old farmhouse. And so it was just almost a done deal when I walked in that house was going to be my house, because it was so much like what I grew up with and brought back so many wonderful memories of my childhood that I just couldn't resist. And I love the neighborhood and the homes in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Okay. Madam Secretary, do we have any written correspondence? Okay. Do we have, I now declare the public hearing open. Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on the property on item number 3, 2432 North Riverside Drive, Davis House? Okay. Moving on. I would like to thank you all for your comments. We will now bring it to the commissioners. Does any commissioner have any comments or questions of staff or those who have spoken on the subject? Commissioner Rush.
It is a beautiful home architecturally, but I'm very much troubled by the replacement windows that I think take away.
They're wood windows. They're replacement only on windows. They're wood windows.
Do they match what was original?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I have a question for staff. If you look on page 3-6, and also 3-7, it says the entry door could not be observed at the time of elevation. The majority of the original windows appear to have been replaced and now mainly consist of 4/4 double hung vinyl or aluminum windows set in contemporary frame. And then on the other one, on page 3-7, is despite subsequent alterations, the replacement of some original material building have appeared eligible for listing. Okay, what's happening here, please?
Excuse me, can I make a comment on this?
I'm going to allow that. Would you please? And then also, would you fill out a form for me, please?
I'll do that after I make a comment.
Right.
Staff could interject for just a second from a technical standpoint, if you don't mind for just a second. So the information that's in the template is based on the field research from our historic consultant. So if there's some disconnect there, that's part of their findings. And as some of you might know, that when you replace windows, quote, like for like, sometimes if it's not, when it's a historic structure, we make very sure it's exactly like to like, that the detailing is exactly precise. When you do like to like at a regular home, it's not always exactly like the historic original one. So that might be why the perception of vinyl, with their drive-bys, it was a perception of vinyl.
Okay. Mr.
Willard.
Okay, be sure to fill out the form for me.
Sure. I'm very familiar with this house inside and out, and I'm familiar with Pamela Snyder's deceased husband. And one of the things that he made a comment to me about was that if I had to do this over again, excuse me.
Take your time. Take your time. Take your time.
I would replace vinyl windows instead of wood. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Anyhow, I would replace vinyl windows with wood windows with vinyl. He replaced the wood windows, and he had problems with the windows, the finish on the windows deteriorating, which he wouldn't have experienced with vinyl windows. So the wood windows that he replaced, he made a comment about that. And the reason that he replaced those windows with wood, or did the wood windows, was to maintain the historic value of the property. Now, if you were to go into the inside of that house and look at the finishing on it, like Pamela said, or like Mrs. Snyder said, the finish on the wood, the floors, the whole interior of the house that you probably didn't have an opportunity to visualize or see is absolutely amazing, and it is a period piece and it is historical. But those windows are all absolutely wood windows, because we replaced our windows with vinyl. You know, we're in Park Santiago, and again, that's when Robert said, "No, you did the right thing." Or Mr. Snyder said the same thing. Pamela's deceased husband said the same thing, is that I would do vinyl windows. He suggested that we do vinyl windows on ours, regardless of historic value of our house or perceived historic value of our house. And again, those are wood windows, but the entire house, from the outside as well as the inside, is absolutely amazing.
Okay.
Thank you
so much. Okay.
You need me to do the form?
I would like, I don't know if I can do this, but I would like to motion a continuance on this one item for the next meeting, so that we can fix the paperwork when it comes to titles, we can fix and review the house when it comes to the aluminum windows and all that sort of stuff. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I am a second on it.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Marashi, second by Commissioner Nguyen.
Is there some discussion before?
It's a discussion? Yeah.
I have a comment I'd like to make. So I specifically would request, if we're going to do a continuance, that staff does get the corrections in the template. But I have a question for the homeowner. How many years have you lived there, Mrs. Snyder?
Since 1998.
Since 98. So that's right. I thought so.
Did you sell there? Did he sell you that home?
So it's almost 20 years, right? So I know in the past, it's a beautiful home, as I recall. Sometimes in the past we have hyphenated the names of the owners for people who lived there a very long time. And it's almost 20 years. I think 20 was sort of our benchmark we used in the past, but I'd like to suggest that we consider making the name the Davis Snyder House in memory of her husband, if that's appropriate, and if the homeowner would like that.
Okay, is that what you're directing staff to do, or is that
I'm suggesting it with the motion.
Yeah. Since we're going to have the new information.
So that's a friendly amendment.
Yes.
Yeah. Sarah,
You okay with that?
I'm okay with it.
All right.
I'm okay with it.
Okay. All right. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Our next meeting, which you will be on the agenda with the correction, will be October 26th, okay? Which is Thursday, October 26th is our special meeting, okay? I mean, we can, staff, bring it back on that date.
That is correct. October 26th would be our next agendized meeting. We do have another opportunity on the 2nd of November, if that date may work better for the applicant. We'd be happy to place it on the as an item on the 26th of October.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Okay. We're going to give you applause anyway. You know, come on, guys. Thank you so much. Okay, now this is the time and place for public hearing. Item number 4, Historic Resource Commission application number 2017-21. Historic Register Categorization number 17-20, and Historic Property Preservation Agreement number 2017-26 for the property located at 1121 South Hickory Street. Staff will make a presentation on the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, this property is located at 1121 South Hickory Street in the East Side neighborhood. The property is recognized as the Easton House and has distinctive architectural features of the Queen Anne style. The property or the building was built in 1907. All original exterior features of the Easton House are considered to be character-defining and should be preserved. Character-defining features of the Easton House include materials, finishes, roof configuration, materials and treatment, massing, composition, fenestration. It is recommended that the house be designated to the Santa Ana Register of Historical Properties and categorized as contributive for its exemplification of the distinguishing characteristics of the Queen Anne style. Additionally, the house should be categorized as contributive because it contributes to the overall character and history of Santa Ana and is a good example of period architecture representing the Queen Anne style. That concludes staff's presentation. I can answer any questions.
Any questions? I have one.
Sure.
Before we go into that. How many Queen Anne style homes do we have in the city? Do you know?
I do not know that off the top of my head, sorry.
Is it, this is,
We don't have an exact number for you. We'd be happy to run some sort of search and get back to you on that particular item.
okay, because this is in the East Side Neighborhood Association, okay, which is on the east side, and it had a very interesting who lived there and how they developed the first east side, developed Tustin, and a lot of things, a lot of history, and you very seldom hear about this neighborhood association. Commissioner Hardy, you're in Henninger. Do you have Queen Anne style homes?
No, I don't believe we do have. Sorry, Madam Chairperson. I'm not aware off the top of my head of any in particular. This home is over 100 years old, so I'm thinking maybe our houses are not quite that old.
Okay.
Wouldn't you have a couple Queen Anne's possibly just south of First Street?
Yes, maybe on Broadway
Yeah.
or Main. Off the top of my head, I can't recall any
Yeah.
in particular, but yes.
It is such a distinctive. I'm just wondering why it's contributed rather than landmark or, key, because of the fact you don't see those homes, like Floral Park does not have it. They're more English revival. My neighborhood in the Southwest, no, that's modern, kind of architect. But this one is in the East Side neighborhood, which has a lot of historical base. And when I walked up there, I said, I haven't seen a home like this. So I just want the commissioners to start thinking about it, that we may want to change the designation from contributed to either landmark or key. because of the fact you don't see this. And it's over 100 years old, and a lot of things happened in that East Side neighborhood. So this is the first one I can think for East Side. Is this the first home? Right.
Well, keep in mind the house was moved too.
Right.
I mean, there are quite a few Victorian and Queen Anne in the East Side neighborhood. Probably the most remarkable that I can think of is the Halliday House, which should be put on the register. We should do that. We tried to put it on the register, and Betty Biner, bless her little pea-picking heart, she's passed away now, but she came down here and pitched a purple ringtail ling tizzy hissy fit, and because she was still carrying a grudge against Adeline Walker, didn't want to have the house on the register. So the city finally caved into her and didn't do it, but it should be. It's a remarkable house, and it absolutely needs to be named a landmark. We're off topic, but anyway.
Well, no, because I'm asking staff here, do we have other Queen Anne's, and, since it's such a distinctive sound on that.
We can research that and get that information over to you.
Right, and so forth. But just for the commissioner to start thinking, do we need to change while we're asking staff, okay?
Sure. Well,
Am I right, Ryan? Am I correct in having this conversation like this?
Absolutely, this conversation is absolutely appropriate for the consideration of the type of.
Would it be fair to ask to have it perhaps moved from contributive to key? I don't know that it would rise to the level of landmark, but
Well, that can be done when we approve it in the motion, and we can
Okay.
include
The designated the type of designation is absolutely up to the discretion of the commission. We just need to make sure that the findings are made to rise to that level.
okay.
Commissioner Rushing?
I would like to make a motion.
Oh,
that-
we haven't finished. You're way so excited.
Madam Chair? Can I make a little comment about the Holiday House? As I remember, Mrs. Biner was also making a point of the fact that all those Victorians had been demolished up and down the street on both sides, and she was in shock still over that and wanting to know why it was that we valued her property and not all the others that were gone. So.
It's interesting. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Is the applicant here?
Hi. Thank you for considering my house. I also was not prepared to speak, so I apologize if I ramble. But I'm a first-time home buyer. I bought this house last year in December, and in response to that question earlier, just so happened that someone was out campaigning, Mr. Mark McLaughlin. I don't know if he won or if he's...
There he is.
Oh, okay, hello. I didn't get to meet you, but we were doing the inspection, and he stopped by and talked to my realtor and let us know that it might be a qualifier. So once I've purchased the home, we were in contact, and he sent me the information. So thank you very much. But I've lived in Orange County for about 14 years. I went to grad school at Chapman and Orange and just love all of their historic neighborhoods. Never thought I'd be able to afford an actual home in Orange County, and I'm very excited to be a member of the Santa Ana community. I think it's one of the last affordable places to buy a single family home. It's actually the first home that I looked at and just kept coming back to it. I know that, like it says in the information, the previous owner had told me she believed it was moved, so it was moved there in 1930, and I did a little research as well in the library, and we really couldn't find any information where it was moved from, so I would love to find that out. That would be interesting. But original wood floors, there's two of the original door casings inside, and whoever took the other ones out was an idiot. And yeah, I would just love the opportunity to help preserve it. I think there was an issue maybe with some of the windows. I know that they are all wooden in the front, but possible just the tracks are vinyl, so I don't know if that is an issue, but I guess we'll talk about that further. Thank you.
Before you leave,
sure.
Your neighbor behind you, your garage, where your garage is, your neighbor behind you was the one that stopped us because he got the letter.
Oh, okay.
And so he probably is going to ask you about the process.
Okay.
And in addition to, his home and how did you do it and everything else.
Oh, good. I'd like to talk to them about a couple of wild parties, so that'll be perfect opportunity to meet them.
We know nothing about that, but he was just interested. Okay?
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Madam Secretary, wow, wild parties. We don't have wild parties in Santa Ana, do we?
Well, it seems like a trend. We had the Revere House Afterglow site, and now we have this one, so there you are.
The party home. Have we received any written communication? No. Okay. The public hearing is now open. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on this application? Hearing none, then I would like to thank you speakers for your comments. Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Okay, and we'll bring it to the commissioners. Okay, commissioners? Let's get the questions before you make the motion, okay? Motion or question?
Really a comment.
Comment? Go ahead.
Right, that I'm pleased to see this application. I know that Vice Chair Schaefer and I think Chair Christie have often commented that the historic homes seem to be concentrated in Floral Park and other areas. We've got a few now from Park Santiago and so on, and there's some very beautiful homes, but I'm not really so familiar with this area, so when I went down to look at this house, I drove up and down some of the other streets, and there are some homes looking from the 20s and so on that look very, very interesting to me and certainly have a feel of being historic in my view. And I'm glad to see that we're getting some of that recognized.
Commissioner Schaefer?
I would just like to echo that and encourage the new homeowner to be the beginning of a wave or a trend in her neighborhood with preservation. Sometimes it takes somebody new to come in to wake all the old timers up. And I want to appreciate you and the fact that we're putting a home on in your neighborhood. There's plenty of eligible properties there that should be on. Mm-hmm. So, and that's how we keep our city looking beautiful. So please be an ambassador to your neighbors, especially when you get that great new tax bill. You're going to love the lower rate.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Rush?
Well, congratulations, and yes, I would echo Phil's comments. One thing I would like to ask, if it's possible, I know I'm picking the fly specks out of the pepper, but is it possible that another picture could be substituted, sans the trash can? It just seems like to go into our historical record, we could let go of the trash can. I certainly want to give Waste Management all the advertising opportunities, but I think it would be appropriate to remove that. Couldn't you fuzz it out? It's green there. The trash can's green. Fuzz it out or take a new picture. So, and by the way, probably most of you in this room are familiar with the Heritage Museum down on Harvard, just off of Fairview, and the Kellogg House that is down there came out of East Side neighborhood. It was moved from East Side over to where the Heritage Museum site is. So, and it's a Queen Anne, and so there's actually probably I would venture to say that East Side had more Victorians in it than French Park did. It certainly is many, and so it's just that unfortunately East Side went through a period where the city council, when it was brain dead, allowed I'm not talking about anybody currently, I'm talking decades ago, when they thought it would be prudent to tear out Victorians and replace them with slums to come, otherwise known as high-density housing. And so that's unfortunate, but be that as it may, there are still a lot of Victorians in that neighborhood that are worthy of saving, and good for you that you're doing that.
Any
all.
other comments from the commissioners? Then I declare the public hearing is now closed. Now, do I have a motion?
I would like to make the motion, especially after I'm the navigator when I drive around with the chairperson, and this is all I look at, and there's no picture, and so I get the address and I put it in, and we're driving down the street, and I'm going, oh, nice house, and then I see this house. It's such a gem to drive upon, and then to walk up there and then walk along that beautiful porch. It's just such a beauty that I want to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving Historic Resource Commission application number 2017-21 and approving Historical Register categorization number 2017-20 with an amendment that the property be characterized as key, because it is such a perfect example of a Queen Anne, and it is such great condition. And also, I recommend that the City Council authorize the City Manager and the Clerk of the Council to execute a Mills Act agreement with Jillian Andrews, subject to non-substantive changes approved by the City Manager and City Attorney.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Phil, I'll defer to the Vice Chair.
I have 2 seconds, okay? Moved by Commissioner Rushy, seconded by Commissioner Rush and the Commissioner Schaefer. Boy, that's how much they love this Queen Anne, right? I tell you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Congratulations. Okay, moving along. Now is the time and place for item number 5 for Historic Resource Commission application number 2017-22, Historic Register Categorization number 2017-21, and Historic Property Preservation Agreement number 2017-27, located at 2031 North Ross Street.
This property is recognized.
I'll make the presentation. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
This property is recognized as the W.L.&C Tubbs House. It's located at 2031 North Ross Street in the Floral Park neighborhood. The distinctive architectural features of the English Revival style are clearly exhibited in the home. The building was built in 1929 by Roy Roscoe Russell. Character-defining features of this home that should be preserved include materials and finishes, original windows, brick coining, roof shape, rounded entryway, and brick chimney. It's recommended that the house be designated to the Santa Ana Register of Historical Properties and categorized as contributive for its exemplification of the distinguishing characteristics of the English Revival style. Additionally, the house has been characterized as contributive because it contributes to the overall character of the history of the Floral Park neighborhood and is a good example representing the English Revival style in Santa Ana. Staff recommends that the Historic Resource Commission adopt a resolution to approve HRCA 2017-22 and HRC 2017-21 and authorize HPPA 2017-27. That concludes staff's presentation. I can answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Thank you so much. Would the applicant like to comment at this time? Is the applicant here?
Good afternoon. My name is Alexander Niesen. I'm the proud owner of the Tubbs House. And thank you so much, Mr. Escamilla, for your additional research here. And I might contribute a little bit. So this neighborhood seems to be a lot of partying going on, because this house was also another house where a lot of socialites and people met to socialize and to have a good time. they called it the Tubbs House, and I would have not thought that the commission would select the Tubbs House. Obviously, they like to party here, but there was another very, very distinctive gentleman named Mr. Riley, and he was owned this house for a short, brief period, I think for 4 years, till he unfortunately got bankrupt, and he was a supervisor in Anaheim, and he was the first supervisor who ousted the Ku Klux Klan, which was very, very prominent in Orange County. So with the help of the local newspapers, he defeated the Ku Klux Klan supervisor at this time, Mr. Riley, and he used to live in this house. He didn't stay very long as supervisor, but he also lived in this house, and then it moved on a couple of times. And the last owner was a Mr. Schultz, and so I didn't need to go all into the new library. So Mr. Schultz lived there from 1963, 54 years, and he was a German. And so after 54 years, it keeps in German hands, because I'm German. And so it's, and thank you so much for maybe considering this listing. And I love the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication? No. I now declare the public hearing now open. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this home? Thank you, Mr. Neeson, for giving us a history lesson. Okay. No, that's important. Okay. Thank you again. Does the commissioners have, I'm bringing it back to the commission, any questions or comments?
You know I always have a comment. So,
of course.
I know in the past, I think we've done a chain of title to see who owned the homes, how long. And if this Schultz guy has owned it 54 years, that's certainly a remarkable length of time in Orange County, even back then. So I would like to recommend, if we can verify that we maybe change the name of the house to the Schultz House. I don't know how long the Tubbs actually owned it. Could staff answer that possibly? Do they, or do you know? The homeowner might know.
The Tubbs owned it twice. They owned it after it was first sold to them, and then they sold it to this Mr. Riley guy, and then he went bankrupt and Tubbs bought it back.
Sure, I was just going to add a bit about how we've been going about selecting the names for the homes. For properties that are going to be categorized as key, where the occupants of the home may have played a significant role in the history of Santa Ana and occupied the building in its period of significance, then that name would be taken. But for the other structures that are listed as contributive and that are being placed on the register because of its architectural integrity, then we've been using the first occupant of the building.
Just in the past, I've been on this commission for 15 years. We've always given honor to the people that have lived there the longest. So that's something I'd like us to consider on this.
According to the paperwork here, it says that it was sold to the Rileys in March of 1932, and then shortly after that, in 1932, not long after the purchase of the property, Harry Riley filed for bankruptcy, and then it went back to the Tubbs. So he owned it for a very short period of time, actually.
Yeah. But Schultz would have owned it the longest. There.
So you would like it to be the Tubbs Schultz house?
I think the Tubbs Schultz house would be appropriate.
Are you? Is the applicant in favor of that?
The Schultz, that's fine. The Tubbs Schultz house.
You may have to. Sure. You may have to have a picture of the gentleman from Hogan's Heroes hung in the entryway.
We can do further research and confirm that, and then if that's the case, then we can act on that recommendation and change it to Tubbs Schultz. Definitely.
Yeah, let's verify it.
Okay.
Make sure.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. I now declare that the public hearing is closed, and do I have a motion? Oh, come on, guys, don't all speak at one time.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Tim?
Goodness, don't I have to read? Isn't there a long dissertation here on the?
Yeah, just go to tab number 5, or your.
Madam Chairman, I move that the Commission adopt a resolution for application number 2017-22, Historic Register Categorization 2017-21, and Historic Preservation Agreement number 2017-27 for property located at 2031 North Ross Street to be known as the Tubbs Schultz home. I move that to be approved by the Historical Resources Commission.
You also have to do the Mills Act.
Where do I read that? Recommend that the City Council authorize the City Manager and Clerk of the Council to execute a Mills Act agreement with Alexander Neeson, subject to non-substantive changes approved by the City Manager and City Attorney.
Moved by Commissioner Rush. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Hardy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Congratulations. Now the time and the place by Mr. and Mrs. Martinez. Place for public hearing on item number 6 for Historic Resource Commission application number 2017-23, Historic Register Categorization number 2017-22, Historic Property Preservation Agreement number 2017-28, located at 2424 North Riverside Drive.
Thank you.
Okay, staff will do now presentation.
Thank you. Just to start off the presentation, I'd like to refresh the Commission's memory on the definition for the key category. Key category are buildings or objects or site has a distinctive architectural style and the quality or is characteristic of a significant period in the history of the city, or the building is associated with a significant person or event in the city. This property is located at 2424 North Riverside Drive in the Floral Park neighborhood. The property is recognized as the K.H. Sutherland House and has a distinctive architectural feature of the French eclectic style. The home was built in 1930, and character-defining features of the K.H. Sutherland House include materials and finishes, original windows, pattern in the stucco walls, roof shape and materials, arched entryway opening, and brick chimney. Typical features of French eclectic style illustrated by the house include its asymmetrical composition, patterned stucco walls, pointed door, multi-pane casement windows, and wood shingle roof. It is recommended the house be designated to the Santa Ana Register of Historical Properties and categorized as key for its exemplification of the distinguishing characteristics of the French eclectic style and for its association with a significant figure in the history of Santa Ana. Additionally, the house has been categorized as key because it is an intact example of French eclectic style residence in the Floral Park neighborhood and has a distinctive architectural style and quality. The building is also categorized as key because its association with a significant person in the city, as K.H. Sutherland served as Orange County's deputy health officer while he lived in the house. Staff recommends that the Historic Resource Commission adopt a resolution to approve HRC A 2017-23 and HRC 2017-22 and recommend the City Council authorize HPPA 2017-28. That concludes staff's presentation. I can answer any questions. Thanks.
Any questions for staff?
I have one.
Sure.
One question. I noticed in the template that it says there was a permit to re-roof and the cost of the roof was $71,000. I know the homeowners here. Is that correct? It's a pretty great roof. Chris?
No, that actually was not.
Okay.
It was combined with
roofing, plumbing, wiring.
Okay. I thought, wow, that's a pricey roof.
Yeah. Actually, the roof was a big percentage of that.
I bet.
Others could tell you that it had custom shingle roofs.
Yeah.
And they're very expensive.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Now, would the applicants like to talk about? Chris?
Thank you. I will just say a couple of things real briefly. I do want to call attention that on page 6-6 of the documentation, my last name and my wife's name have been transposed as the property owners. So our last name is Loria and my wife's first name is Delma. So I don't know whether that'll needs to be carried over to some other paperwork. It's actually also on page 6-18 also. So I just want to bring that to the attention also to make sure that it gets registered properly. I also want to thank you for listing this as a key for a couple of reasons. Obviously, the French eclectic style is not very common in Santa Ana. There are actually two of us in Floral Park, which is rather unique too. There is another one down on the further east on Riverside Drive. There's a second one that's actually facing in a different direction, and until you actually look at it, you don't realize that the two styles are actually the same, just because it's kind of transposed on the property. But I wanted to also bring to the attention that Dr. Sutherland certainly was a prominent person. He was the Orange County Health Officer. It's listed as a one-story house, and that's because the second floor was never completed. It had a lot to do with property taxes and not having that square footage. However, there is a staircase that goes up from the dining room into a single room, and that single room had a sink and a bookcase. And we can only think that it was probably Dr. Sutherland's office at the time, or whatever work he was doing out of there, linoleum floors and that type of thing. So there is actually a second floor, but it was probably just his office. I also wanted to call attention to the fact that I bought this house in 1983, and based on talking about the Schultz house a few minutes ago, 54 years, I'm all of a sudden thinking about it being 34 years since I've lived in this house. But it was rather unique when I was looking for homes, and I actually found this through the Old House Buyer's Guide of Orange County, which was a kind of a newsletter that was available every couple of months. This was obviously before the internet and before MLS listings were very obvious to find. And so this was a small newspaper that was put out by the Heritage Orange County, and it listed homes. And just to make everyone jealous, all of the homes in here are between $80,000 and $220,000, including some of the very more prominent houses in Orange, in Tustin, and obviously in Santa Ana also. So it's kind of interesting to look back and yeah, Commissioner Schaefer, you would have probably loved to have some of these listings. Like, for instance, the Castle House was up for sale at that time for $250,000 on Park. Yeah, exactly. So, but again, thank you if you've got any questions. But yes, the roof did not cost $71,000, but it was very significant. And it was actually done by one roofer. He had a helper. It took 6.5 weeks to actually put the roof on it when we had it re-roofed. So, yeah, they're quite a craftsman skill that we don't see a lot anymore.
Thank you so much, Chris. Okay. Do we have any written communication, Madam Secretary? None. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone in the audience that wish to speak about item number 6?
Just out of curiosity, how long does a wood roof last like this? How much life do you get out of it?
The front of that has triple the material of what would normally be placed on a shingle roof because it's actually randomly patterned, it's layered. So there's actually 3 times the material that the building permit would require. So we will probably get about 50 years out of the front of the house. West facing has double the material because that's where the sun typically is. So that's got double the material. So our roofer knew to load up on the amount of roofing material. The east side is probably going to have to be replaced in the next 10 years or so.
Okay. good. Okay. Is there anyone else? Okay. Thank you so much, Chris. And we want to thank you for your hospitality, you and Noemi. Okay. When Commissioner Rush and I knocked on the door, they opened up their home. You can see the inside of that home. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Fit exactly. That's French eclectic. And at one point, they were just talking just like friends, neighbors, here are these two strangers coming in and, hi, welcome, in the front. I thought you were going to serve us tea. I really did. And I go, we'd love to stay longer, but, we have other properties that we have to do. But thank you so much once again for your open hospitality. Okay. Where am I now? Speakers, I bring it back to the commissioner for comments. Anyone? Okay. Yeah, Commissioner Rivera.
Just to comment, that publication that you have was put out by Heritage Orange County, which still exists today, and is headed by a gentleman that served on this commission for a long time, Phil Chin. But it was started by Hal and Jeanette Thomas, and was responsible for many historic facade easements that still exist today on quite a number of buildings here in town. And Heritage Orange County even has some facade easements on buildings in LA County. But that would be an interesting bit of history to peruse. Anyway, back in the old days when we did things like advertise in newspapers, how yesterday is that?
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I now declare the public hearing on item number 6 is now closed. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, Madam Chair. I'd like to move that we adopt a resolution approving Historic Resources Commission application number 2017-23 and approving Historic Register categorization number 2017-22. And also recommend that the City Council authorize the City Manager and Clerk of the Council to execute a Mills Act agreement with Christopher and Loria and Delma Loria, subject to non-substantive changes approved by the City Manager and City Attorney.
I second.
Moved by Commissioner Hardy, second by Commissioner Schaefer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Okay, moving right along. This is the time and place for the public hearing on item number 7 for Historic Resource Commission application number 2017-24 and Historic Register categorization number 2017-23 located at 2005 North Ross Street. Staff will now make a presentation.
Thank you. The property is recognized as the Hugh J. Lowell House. It's located in the Floral Park neighborhood at 2005 North Ross Street. The home has distinctive architectural features of the English Revival style and was built in 1929 by Allison Honer. Character-defining features of the Hugh Lowell House that should be preserved include materials and finishes, original windows, brick coining, roof shape and materials, rolled eaves, rounded entryway, and brick chimney. It's recommended that the house be designated to the Santa Ana Register of Historical Properties and categorized as key under Criterion 1 for its exemplification of the distinguishing characteristics of the English Revival style. Additionally, the house has been categorized as key because it has a distinctive architectural style and quality representing the English Revival style in Santa Ana. Staff is recommending the Historic Resource Commission adopt a resolution to approve HRCA 2017-24 and HRC 2017-23. That concludes my presentation.
Okay. Okay, is there any questions to the staff? Okay, Commissioner Rush?
I don't recall seeing it in here, but maybe I overlooked it. You might want to add to the description or mention in terms of part of the categorization for key is that Hugh J. Lowe was a prominent person here in Santa Ana. He owned a haberdashery downtown, which in fact Tom Lutz, former council member and Mayor Pro Tem, worked there as a teenager, and but it was a prominent men's store in town. So he was someone who was, Hugh Lowe was known and well respected as a downtown merchant.
Definitely, we can conduct further research and make amendments to the template.
Now I can see why it's key.
Huh?
and not contributed, because I had a problem with that because, like I said, it's an English revival. And so far we've had 1, 2, 3, and 4 English revival homes that were 3 of them classified as contributors. And then all of a sudden I see this one as key, and I'm going, why? Because he didn't have that additional information as prominency. Now I can understand why it would be classified as key on that, because you're looking at continuity here, because you can see it stands out without important information as to who lives there, other than because all it says is key is architectural style. Okay, if that was the case, then the other English revivals would have also been classified as key. Okay, but they're contributors. So what I'm asking is that if we can please be consistent in these classifications, and that, if it's something like another English revival, that you go back and look at, okay, we have how many English revival as, the style was contributed because there's so many of them. But if there's something of a key person or a historical figure, we need to know, okay, to distinguish, just keep the consistency on the classification of these homes. Okay?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Would the applicant like to come up and talk about the home?
Hi, I'm not going to talk very long. I've lived in this house for 44 years.
Your name?
I'm Helen Norton. Sorry. I've lived in this house for 44 years, and I have a comment, and I don't know if you can give me permission to do this or not, but a request. I did this for my husband, who passed away in 2015. Sorry. He loved this house. We loved this house. He worked on it, and we redid that roof you see twice. Once when I cut every piece of wood on a, what's that kind of saw? And he would we had a pulley, he'd mark them, because you can see it's a weave house. A wave pattern. Yeah, a ocean wave or something, and he'd throw it down to me, and I'd cut it on one of those saws, and the pulley would go back up. So anyway, but it was just redone a few years ago, and yes, we did pay a lot of money for it. But the request I have is, when I was researching this, there's a room in the Santa Ana Library that has a little folder of Allison Hohner houses. My house is not in there. I don't know what it takes to get it in there, but my daughter went to school with Allison Hohner's great-granddaughter. So that's what I'm requesting. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Staff?
Thank you
More
for
research.
thank you for that. Staff would be happy to make a request to put the photo into with our archives over at the library. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Do we have any written communication, Madam Secretary? Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone else in the audience that wish to speak to this item number 6 on our agenda? 7, I'm sorry. Number 7 on the agenda. If not, then I would like to thank the speaker, thanks Ms. Norton, for your comments. And we'll bring it back to the commissioners. Okay, does any commissioner have a comment? Okay.
Of course I have comments. We have a theme going of parties today, and there were lots of parties in this house. It was a very happy home, I have to testify, and Dan was a personal friend, and he made the meanest apple pie you can imagine, amongst other skills of being a carpenter that rebuilds houses from the foundation up to being pitched up on the roof and cutting shingles, and the guy could do anything. Dan worked, I think, his entire career at Ernie Ball Guitar, and was their special projects guy. He tried to quit and leave many times, and they just would not take no for an answer. They kept sweetening the pot for him, and because they knew he could do anything. And he was a really amazing, amazing guy. And this roof is just like the icing on the cake. If you go in the house and you see the windows and the cabinets and the moldings and things, he all custom milled to make sure they were exactly like the original. He was a stickler for detail, and just did beautiful, beautiful work. So I'm thrilled to see this house being placed on the registry, and I would like to see it named. We can keep the Hugh Lowe on there, but it definitely should have the Norton name added. Perhaps Daniel Norton, to be on there. They have owned the home for 44 years, which is probably the longest of anybody that had lived there. Helen might know that, I don't know. Yeah. And it's very original inside. It's not a house that they've gone in and modernized the inside. It's very, very true to its original character and form.
Well, given the comments that Phil made, don't you think we should make a condition of our approval that we get to see the inside?
Helen won't allow that, probably.
What's that? Okay, all right. Should we request that the inside be placed on the register as well, as conforming as it is? Well, why not push the edge of the envelope? Let's do that. You know, start a new trend. You know, that's what I'd love to see. Let's do that.
Any other?
I have a question. Is this going to be, is there recommended action also for the Mails Act agreement? Because there's no number 2? No? Okay, just one. Okay. Got it.
The next owner's issue.
Just wanted to confirm.
Okay.
If we have no more comments,
I do.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to make the motion, so if you have a
no,
comment,
I have a comment.
I'll
Okay.
wait.
Okay, Commissioner Rushing and I saw your home, and we had to walk. You cannot see the design in the front.
I just have that bush. I can see where you're talking about. I just have that sense. I actually have every year these trees trimmed. I'm trying to save that tree in the middle because I think there's something wrong with it, so I don't have it cut enough. But I see the bush you're talking about in the jack-o'-lantern.
The reason why we're so sensitive right now, we had a homeowner that the planning commissioner denied his request to put all this elaborate landscaping in, which you could not see from the street. And here, we had to go up on your porch in order to see the roof, okay, and everything. It has to be you know, if you're going on the historical register, has to be seen from all sides, especially the front. So if you're going to do that, then I can see going forward with your, you know, the action that the council wants, the commission wants to make, okay? All right, thank you. And then, once it's done, get another picture, please, okay, to show, because it is a gorgeous roof. It is.
My daughter doesn't want to cut my trees until like October or November, and that's when I have them done in a year. So I don't know if you're going to take a picture tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Carl. Quick one.
We can update the photograph after the trees are trimmed.
Right, update that, because, right.
I just talked to him yesterday.
Okay, notify the city that you've done that, because you know who I'm talking about. You know, if he sees that, boy, I'll tell you. Okay, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Okay, all right.
So I want to make the motion on this one, but before I do, I just have a couple other comments. First of all, some of the trees in the front are jacaranda, which is the city tree. So that's something, two of them, correct? Yeah. And I have a jacaranda in front of my house too, and we trim it once a year. It grows like a weed. I hate that tree, but it's beautiful. But it's the bane of my existence with the purple flowers and the everything. It drops all year long. So that is a bit messy, but it is the city tree, and so that's kind of nice that the jacarandas are there. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the resolution approving Historic Resource Commission application 2017-24 and approving the Historic Register categorization of number 2017-23 for the Norton property on Ross Street. And I would also like to add to that we would add the Norton name to the house.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner. Moved by Commissioner Schaefer, second by Commissioner Rushkey. I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Congratulations. Okay. Item number 8. Last but not least. Okay. This is the time and place for hearing on item number 8 for Historic Resource Commission application number 2017-25, Historic Register Categorization 2017-24, and Historic Property Preservation Agreement number 2017-29, located at 2401 North Flower. Staff will now make a presentation on this item.
Thank you. This property is located in the Floral Park neighborhood. It's located at 2401 North Flower Street, and it's being recognized as the Hull House. The Hull House has distinctive architectural features of the English Revival style and was built in 1931 by Roy Russell, who was a contractor who subdivided the Floral Park neighborhood. Character-defining features of the Hull House that should be preserved include roof shape, configuration, and eave detailing, original windows, brick chimney, stucco walls, porch size and shape. It is recommended that the house be designated to the Santa Ana Register of Historical Properties and categorized as contributive for its exemplification of the distinguishing characteristics of the English Revival style. Staff recommends that the Historic Resource Commission adopt a resolution to approve HRCA 2017-25 and HRC 2017-24 and recommend the City Council authorize HPBA 2017-29. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
Could we see the picture again?
Yeah, it's two different pictures.
Is it a different one?
Yeah, that's a different picture from what I have.
I think we have a close-up on the photo.
Yeah, we just have a more close-up.
A different angle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the same house.
That's the house. That's
the
it.
house. That's the house.
Okay.
This is the house. That's why we go out to make sure. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. With the applicants, Mr. and Mrs. Ramirez.
It might look a little bit different because we've done some landscaping. So this is an old picture. So the one that you have is a more recent picture where we put some topiaries in the front. So that might be why it looks a little bit different. I grew up in a 800 square foot California bungalow, craftsman style, and he grew up in Orange County too. So we were really drawn to homes that have soul and character and are unique. So this is the first home that we've ever lived in and we purchased. And so we definitely looked in the Santa Ana area because we really love these homes with character. We walked inside, and the home still has the original floors. It has the original built-ins. In the bathroom, it still has the original vanities. It has the vaulted with ceilings with the molding. It has still the little workable milk dispenser where when you got your milk glasses, it still has a working door. Our daughter loves that. We have a 2-year-old. And I'm so sorry we didn't invite you in that day. We, unlike them, were not so hospitable, but we had a 2-year-old, and we could have offered you the goldfish that were on the floor and the laundry that was on our couch. So
okay.
Sorry about that.
Miss Madeline was concerned about,
Yes,
where's my shoe?
we could not find her shoes, so sorry about that. We still have the lath and plaster throughout the interior, so it still has the interior. It's definitely very original as well. And the windows are definitely still original. Let's see. Oh, we had a former resident, so the Wileys were the last ones who lived in there for a really considerable period of time, for about 30 years. And she stopped by right after we bought the house, and she is a much older lady now. She lived there when she was a very, very little girl and lived there her whole life. And she stopped by and wanted to see the house. We showed her the house, and she said this had been passed down from her family to the owners, and so it kind of lists everyone. It's from the First American Title Insurance Company in Santa Ana, and it lists kind of the lot being owned and who owned it, and so it goes all the way back to the Glassels and the Chapmans of when they owned that lot, and all of the people subsequently up through the Wileys, the Carlisle Wileys. And so she stopped by and just kind of shared how she lives in Laguna now, but she said that she still has friends in the area in West Floral Park and Floral Park, so she always likes to stop by. So she stopped by and kind of hung out with us and kind of walked us through the house right after we moved in, so that was kind of nice too.
It probably goes all the way back to the King of Spain.
It does. That's what it starts off. It starts off the King of Spain, and Mexico was passed on to Mexico and Guadalupe Hidalgo, and it goes through the governor and final decree of partition of the Rancho Santiago de Santa Ana. It goes through the whole thing, yeah.
That's cool.
You can't even get those anymore. You can do a chain of title, but you can't. First American doesn't do those documents anymore.
Yeah, so she was kind of like, it's been passed on through all the homeowners, so we have kept it. And this is how it was given to us, unfortunately, in like a little round piece of paper, so this is how we have it now. So we need to do something to preserve it, but yeah.
Is there any way we can get it in our city files, make a copy of that? Because, I mean, that's historical. That's historical information going back that far.
Could I ask a question about that? Where it says here, I wonder who it was that came by to see you. It says here that Carlisle J. Wiley was the recorded occupant. I wonder if that was J. Wiley Carlisle who was.
Sorry, did I say it wrong? I may have said it backwards. It was his daughter. So she said that she had lived there since she had been
Terry Carlisle.
I do not remember her name, but she was the girl. She said she lived there her whole life, and it will always be her home. She says she knows we live there now, but it's really her home, and so she grew up there.
I forget her name now, but I think J. Wiley Carlisle was the county recorder for a number of years. Mm-hmm. There's a tree in his name planted that's down at I think Broadway and Civic Center somewhere. I think the person that talked to you I went to school with at Santa Ana High School. I'm trying to think of her married name.
I can't remember, but she moved to Laguna, and she still has friends on Olive and West Floral Park that she goes and visits.
And then her older brother, a couple years, was Wiley Carlisle Jr., also went to Santa Ana and was a teacher at Santa Ana High School for a long time and a football coach there. Hustwick, Terry Hustwick is her name. Name now. I would think on the because of the relationship of this to Wiley Carlisle, this should be a key designation.
We can amend when we make when you make the motion. I'm assuming you're going to make
Okay,
that.
I'll make a motion. Sure.
Not now.
Okay.
We got to go through the process, as far as coming in to have that. Okay.
I never was in the house when they lived there, but
It's beautifully maintained. They did an amazing job.
beg your pardon?
I said it's beautifully maintained. They did a wonderful job keeping that house really original and really beautiful.
Sure, but not only the Carlisles that lived there, but I'm sure a lot of other people that I knew from Santa Ana High School were in there. I lived on another side of town, so I didn't go to elementary school with them, but I got acquainted with them at Willard, and then we went through Willard into the high school.
Excellent.
I'm trying to think. Carlisle was the recorder, wasn't he? And wasn't it in the 60s, 50s, and 60s?
He was,
wasn't it?
Yeah, at least he was recorder in the 50s when we were in high school, through the 60s and 70s. The recorder for a long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll, if that is correct, the name is incorrect, so we'll correct our you say it's J. Carlisle Wiley?
J. Wiley.
J. Wiley Carlisle. I don't know. I don't know what his first name was. He went by Wiley, and his son we always knew him as Wiley Jr. It's the name he still uses as.
That's what it says on there too. I think on there it just says J. Wiley as well on that document.
So what we might amend it to the whole Carlisle house?
Right.
Seems a little onerous to call it the whole dash J. Wiley Carlisle.
Well,
That's a mouthful.
When it brings back to the council. I'm sorry.
I just would recommend to you that you guys should frame that and hang it in the house. I think that's very cool that you have that. Yeah.
To preserve that. Any other questions that you have for the applicant? Thank you so much for the information. We really appreciate that. Okay. Any, Madam Secretary? No. Okay. Public hearing is now open. Do we have requests? Anyone else wish to speak on this, Helen? If not, okay. I'd like to thank you once again for bringing us great information. So we'll bring it back to the commission. Okay. Any questions, comments from the commission? Okay. Is there a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move that we adopt a resolution approving Historic Resources Commission application number 2017-25 and approving Historic Registered Categorization number 2017-24 with two amendments. The one is to the categorization, categorizing it as key rather than contributive, and the second amendment or second change would be to the name, naming it the Hall J. Wiley Carlisle House, or just Hall Carlisle House, I guess would be sufficient. Let's name it for all.
Is the last name Carlisle?
That's right. The last name is Carlisle.
Okay. So
Right.
to make sure that our records reflect
Right. Let's
the
call it the
correct
Hall Carlisle House. And I also move that we recommend that the City Council authorize the City Manager and the Clerk of the Council to execute a Mills Act agreement with Benjamin Ramirez and Nicolette Ramirez, subject to non-substantive changes approved by the City Manager and City Attorney.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Heatherville, second by Commissioner Barashi. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. And that is it for the public hearing, guys. Okay, now we'll go, moving is comments, staff member comments.
Thank you, Chair Christie. One quick follow-up here. Just kind of wanted to say thanks for sticking through it with us here tonight. We had a total of 11 items, and staff's been working tirelessly to try to make these meetings kind of back-to-back. So we're bringing you everything we can, giving it all we got, and we recognize that there's some small typos in the reports that we'd be happy to go back and fix for you, and apologize for that. To date, as of July, we've placed 27 properties on the register, so something to celebrate. Not all of those are Mills Act, however. And we're working hard on getting an additional 3 to 5 applications here on our next meeting, which is scheduled for October 26th. And beyond that, we can't make any promises, but we're working hard. We also have 36 pending applications that we're moving forward and informing homeowners that we're going to be working on them as we can at the first part of next year, probably the first quarter. So just want to provide you with that quick update. And to some of the Commission's comments this evening, I was fairly surprised that we had representation from many of our neighborhoods tonight. French Park, the Logan neighborhood, Floral Park, Park Santiago, and East Side were all represented tonight. So that was it was a good night again for variety in terms of where our resources are throughout the city. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Commission comments. Anyone? All right, we'll go down the line. Ken, just say no.
No.
Yes, I think I have my homework cut out for me to identify all the Queen Anne structures in Hettinger Park, and that's doable, so I can report back.
Okay.
Thank you to all the homeowners that were here tonight and the ones that stuck it out through the end of the meeting. We appreciate all your comments. To city staff for doing a great job, and to the commission members as well. I heard a date of November 2nd for a meeting. Is that accurate?
October 26th is the next one. And
earlier in the evening, there was a November 2nd date mentioned, and I don't know what that was tied to.
We have that as a placeholder right now. As I mentioned, we're doing everything we can to wrap up some additional DPR forms. If we're able to, we'll keep that meeting, but we'll keep you posted. Right now we have at least 3, including the one that was continued to the 26th this afternoon. So if we need additional, if we can take additional items, we're keeping that date open. So I hope you do as well.
Okay, I'll make sure to block it. Thank you.
Just a couple things real quick. We had several homes in what I would call the north half of Floral Park today, north of Santa Clara. And I know when we say Floral Park, we're identifying kind of the name that's been used a long time in that neighborhood. But those, when they were brand new, was actually called the North Broadway Park. And I have an old advertisement from the 1930s, I believe. And so I'll make sure that I email a copy to Melanie that she could distribute to the staff and possibly to the commissioners. And then also, I've got a couple old ads for Park Santiago as well that started out as Nob Hill, the southern part of it. I think Melanie's probably familiar with that. And then a northern section was called Oakmont, and that included Santiago Street, Fairmont, and Oakmont when that was a brand new development. So it's kind of fun. I love to get some of the old advertisements and things like that. Since I'm in real estate, I like that history of that. Let's see. The other comment I have is about a home that is on Greenleaf, and I'm not sure if it's on the registry or not. I'm going to have to check, but it is the old Mcfadden family home. And I know we have some concerns on the commission about visibility of some of these homes, and that was brought about from another house that we don't have a view over about the wall and all that was being built. But the Mcfadden house is completely overgrown. You cannot see it at all from the street. I don't know if we need to send code enforcement out there or what we can do about it. The owner's a wonderful guy, and everybody in Floral Park knows him, but it's pretty crazy. You can't even tell there's a house, and it's a 2-story home, so it's that overgrown. Anyway, I just congratulations to all the homeowners tonight. We have some homeowners who have that we've heard about or that are in the room that have been in their homes an incredibly long time, and that's really something to celebrate, and it says good things about our city, I think. So thank you.
Again, I want to thank all the homeowners for coming and the great stories that they had. Thank you very much and for staying with us throughout the evening. I'd also want to thank staff. They are working extremely hard, and we see that effort. I want to welcome Ivan. Great job for your first time. It gets easier as he goes. And Ricardo, thank you very much for being up there also. Just a couple of events coming up. October 12th, the Orange County Historical Society is having their talk on the Seegerstrom family. And that's at 2400 North Canal Street in Orange if you're interested, at 7 p.m. Also on Saturday, October 21st, the Orange County Historical Preservation Society is having their encore favorite scenes from the 20 years of our historic cemetery tour. If you've never been to their historic cemetery tour, you ought to go. It's quite impressive. So thank you very much.
Tim?
Yes, thank you, and congratulations to all the homeowners who received designation tonight. Good luck to you, and wish you many years of happiness in your newly designated historic home. I want to remind everyone about the launch event for Preserve Orange County, the newest preservation group to be a county-wide organization, nonprofit 501c3. It's a free event. It's open to anyone, but certainly, especially, we'd love to have a great showing from our historical commissioners and planning staff, and of course, any of you homeowners want to come, you're welcome to go. But that's November the 3rd, 6:30 p.m. at the Healbert Museum and Gallery of California Art at Chapman University. It'll be reception, and there'll be some remarks by Alan Hess, who is a pretty well-known architect and author on architecture. He's written quite a number of books. He's considered quite an expert on mid-century architecture in particular. He spoke recently at the Bowers Museum and did a talk for the annual meeting of the Orange County Historical Society on Disneyland. And so that's on the 3rd of November. The 4th of November, I'm doing my landmark architectural tour of downtown Santa Ana. We leave from the Waffle House at 2:30 p.m. It is sponsored by the Santa Ana Historical Society. If you're interested in tickets, go to santanahistory.com and you can reserve your tickets. I think it's $8 a person. And a couple other items. A number of the folks who got up today, applicants that were here, mentioned that they didn't know they were going to be asked to speak. So I just would request to staff that we make certain that we let people know so they're not taken by surprise about coming up to address the commission and so forth. Additionally, I'd like to ask of staff, what plans are being made to salvage the old Mcfadden, I think it's Mcfadden Electric building, which is going to be, I know parts of it are going to be torn down, parts of it are going to be relocated, etc., as a part of the hotel complex on North Main across from Bowers. I just hope that since this is a commercial endeavor, the city isn't going to do what they normally do, which is call the Historical Society about 48 hours before the wrecking ball is going to arrive and say, oh, hi, I just want to let you know this building's coming down, and if you can get a crew there to haul all the stuff out, it'll be great, but otherwise it's going to go in the dumpster in the landfill. So now that we have a little bit of time, let's plan on that so it's not a fire drill at the last minute. And the builder the developer ought to be paying for that salvage. So that ought to be part of the drill. Also, as some of you know, the Elks Lodge in Santa Ana is going to be torn down and rebuilt. It's going to be recast, I should say, down on Lyon, just south of Ettinger, adjacent to the Home Depot. It's going to be sandwiched on a 2-acre site between Home Depot and the Orange County Credit Union. And but where it's at now, that building is a beautiful, well, some people might not say it's mid-century architecture. I think the inside is more spectacular than the outside, but I brought in so many members there over the last 5 years that I've been a member. I think I brought in, I may hold the record for the number of members of any member in the last 5 years. And every person I bring in there, who mostly is younger than me, and their jaw drops, and they're just like, wow, this place is so cool. They want to become an elk just so they can go hang out in the bar, you know. So, not that I know a lot of people like to drink. Don't think that. But,
Party town again.
you know, this is a party city. So, anyway, I say that because we ought to be photographing the inside and outside of the building from a historical perspective. So before we grant the demolition permit, let's make that a requirement that the developer do that. That's Wormer Development out of San Diego. And that's all I have.
If I'm not mistaken, it was within the past 2 years that property came in front of the Historical Resource Commission and we granted it register status.
Well, unfortunately, I won't drag you through the long litany, but there were all kinds of reasons. I was one of those voices that wanted it to be refurbished and saved, but because of where it sits on that whole site, the whole block wound up being sold for about $23 million, and we just settled our lawsuit against JK Properties, which operated the hotel. They had a ground lease on the facility, and of course, you know, they just let it go to rack and ruin. And as a result, the homeless got in there, and as you all know the story, the place burnt down, and then we had to demolish it and so forth. So it's just a comedy of a lot of things that happened. So it is unfortunate, but it is gonna come down probably sometime in the third quarter of next year. So the Elks Lodge will relocate. We don't quite know where yet we're going to land, but anyway.
Okay.
That's the latest.
Commissioner Hickory, Dale?
Well, it's been a long meeting, but welcome to Ivan, and thanks again to the staff. As I think Commissioner Marashi says, a lot of hard work, and thanks and congratulations to all the homeowners.
Once again, I want to thank staff, you know, for all the hard work you're doing. You know, these things are coming up and you're burning the midnight oil. That's what you're doing. And all the residents out there, thank you so much for believing in Santa Ana, believing in your home, and coming in and placing it on our historical register. I just have one other question. Binders, okay? I think you may want to ask the commissioner again if they want the binders or they want to do electronically. I know I will pick up my binder, see like I did before.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did finalize our minutes from our prior meeting, and as you suggested, we would prepare a paper binder or a written binder, a printed binder for you for pickup. I think previously at our meeting, I think received consensus that we're going to try the electronic version, and so if it is the Commission's desire to move forward with that, that's what we're prepared to do.
Is there any commissioner that said they want it electronically now want to get a binder? Oh, come on, Tim. Speak up.
Well, are you saying that? Tell me why, if one or two commissioners wanted to have the physical binder, why couldn't you send it out electronically to everybody and deliver the one or two to those that want it?
What we're trying to do, from my understanding, is just create consistency with the Planning Commission and other commissions that have gone electronic. Chair Christie's made a suggestion to continue to have hers printed out for those.
And I pick it up at the.
Yeah, so we can certainly send everyone an electronic copy, and for those that I don't know that continue to want a printed binder, we can look into whether or not we can continue to deliver those as well.
Well, I don't mean to be a stick in the mud, but my secretary probably spent she had to spend an hour putting that together. So I'll do whatever the majority wants to do, but.
Madam Chairperson Bernie, if it comes about that some commissioners are able to have a printed version, I'd love to have a printed one. I never have a problem. They drop it off right on my front porch by the front door, and so. But you know, that's if it comes about. I just want to get my 2 cents there.
Thank you.
I gotta say, although I love the digital version, I like having the hard copy because I can write notes at home and when I review my stuff on the actual copy. But I don't have time to come into the city and pick it up because I work in Aliso Viejo, so it creates a challenge for me. So although I want to save the city money, it's kind of a dilemma.
I'm not sure if we can leave it up for discussion tonight, but if you'd like to reconsider the electronic copy at this time, this might be a good time to talk about it one more time and figure out which way we want to go. We'd prefer consistency. So if everyone decides we want to continue with the paper copies, we're happy to do that. It becomes difficult to start doing, both. But
I'm gonna ask the chair to let's leave it the way it is, and we all get it electronically, and we give it to us and deliver it in writing. In hard copy. Mr. and Ms. Ramirez, if you guys would hold on 1 minute, I have something I want to give you. We'll be done in just a quick moment.
Myself, I prefer electronically, and also the purpose of the save the trees and green and all that, and also saving the city some money. But the thing is that for electronic version concerned, I am easily can able to review the whole entire document from my computer. Any specific pages on that document I would like to take a close look at it, I print that particular pages out and use and make note on it and do whatever I think. And also when I come to the meeting, I will have my own copy, the one I have interest to discuss about or to have an opinion on it, and I also have a hard copy in here as well.
Well, given the nature of what we're doing, because we're looking at these properties and many of us drive around and look at them, I just think it's very difficult to do that without having a hard copy. And so I enjoy getting it electronically because I get it very quickly, and then this follows a few days later. But I don't know that we're really accomplishing much of a savings by if several of the commissioners would like the binder delivered, then deliver it to everybody. We're here not donating. Yes, we get a small stipend, but we're here giving our time and talent and expertise to the city. I don't think providing this is exactly an onerous burden on the taxpayers. That's my own opinion.
For me, it was interesting because I was for electronic version because I figured I'd just download it and have it on my tablet, and then I'd just scroll through as I'm looking at the places. But twice this past time, I just printed the few key pages that gave the description, and twice when we were asked who we were and what we were doing, I actually gave my copy of this to them. So now they walked away with something to think about. And then who knows if that'll spur more people to be interested in becoming on the registry.
That's a good point.
Okay,
Do we have to repoll? You want to repoll us or what?
No,
let's repoll, okay, for them.
we can't take any kind of vote on the item because it's not on the agenda. But I think there was some good conversation there and good discussion for
I know,
staff.
I know that last time I picked it up. I want to continue to do that, just to, for me, especially when I'm going out, driving around and everything else, to have it. And plus, I'm on a fixed income. I'm retired. I can't afford to have to print down all of this information. I really can't.
And doesn't it get printed anyway? We're just bringing it back to you. Yeah.
Thank you for that. We'll continue to deliver the packets. At this point, we were attempting to go with the trial version of the electronic version to see if the commissioners were interested in going that route. I believe consensus at this point is that you'd like to continue receiving both the electronic version and the printed copies.
Thank you so much.
I would like to add another comment to this. For example, if the commissioner cannot able to attend the meeting, the document delivered to the home, and they cannot able to bring that docket package to the meeting. And what happened next meeting, the city may have to print another package, the new package, or deliver it to that commissioner. So that's maybe another thing that you may want to think about.
Okay. All right. With that, I just wanted a short conversation, man. But anyway, thank you all for being here. And with that, the meeting will adjourn to Thursday, October 26th, 2017 at 4:30 p.m. And this meeting is adjourned, according to me, at 6:59. Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.